And how are you guys? I'm Nick Taranto. I'm co-founder, co-CEO of Plated.com. Can we go back one? I like, it's a little story about that. So that's a chicken on my shoulder. It's this heirloom chicken from Cacao Prieto in Red Hook. They make Widow Jane bourbon and rye. I'm a big whiskey guy, and it's a fantastic product. And they've got this cool little area where they make a whole bunch of really good chocolate as well, plus great booze. And they've got these random heirloom, like 100-year-old type chickens roaming around. And I just love this guy with his little mohawk. Just the comment on that photo, my hair's gotten a little longer since then. All right, sorry. So I want to talk to you guys today about being an entrepreneur and taking a problem-solving approach to fixing what I saw as the biggest problem facing our generation, which was the broken American food supply chain. So I'm not a chef. Amazing to be here in your presence. I emailed you a few years ago, Dorothy, and never heard back. So I'm going to follow up. I'm going to follow up, Dorothy. All right. And Eric, you'll see one of my photos was right up the street when we got started from you guys in Greenpoint, right north of the Bushwick Inlet there. So good to see you and meet you here too. A little bit of background. We're about 3 years into our business now. We've raised almost $30 million from some really great supportive investors. I've got my MBA from Harvard. My co-founder does too. I was a Marine Corps infantry officer. I was not a food guy, but I was on Wall Street and saw this massive problem. I was ordering Seamless, eating greasy Thai food multiple times per day, put on like 25 pounds in 6 months, and kind of put up the proverbial periscope and said, there's got to be a better way to feel good about food in the 21st century, and started really digging into just how broken food is in this country and around the world. So we said, you know what, let's try and fix this thing. And that's what we've been doing for the last 3 years. So $30 million raised, awesome. We get tons of coverage now, great media, our space is heating up. Hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars are pouring into food tech. But what I want to talk about is just how freaking hard it was to get to this point. So our mission is to help people eat better, live better, connect that aspiration of wanting to cook, wanting to go to Smorgasburg and eat from food trucks every day. That's just not reality for most people, right? Most people have to work long hours, have to commute, have to take care of their kids. So we're trying to connect that aspiration of eating the way you should every day and helping people understand how they should eat to the reality of a modern life. So real quick, what we're doing, 100% e-commerce site. You can't call us and order. You can't write in by letter or smoke signal or send a heirloom chicken to order on your behalf. Different menu each week. This is a little outdated. We now have 9 recipes you can choose from. You choose the recipe you like. Look at that butter-basted steak. It's a little early for that, but still probably pretty good. Choose your number of portions. We focus on the story behind the recipe. As of about 2 months ago now, all of our meats are antibiotic-free and hormone-free. All of our seafood is domestically and sustainably sourced. So, there's an option to push down the food supply chain and cram out costs and put crappy products into consumers' hands. We don't believe that's the right thing to do. So our product is $12 per portion. It's a little bit more expensive than some other folks in the category, but that's because we have really high quality stuff. And our thought on this is you can either pay your doctor or your grocer. And if you pay a premium to your grocer along the way, you're probably not going to end up paying your doctor more in the long term. And there's a lot of USDA and FDA data to support that, not included here, but we'll talk about that some other time. So choose your recipes, check out. Boom, great experience today. People are stoked. We're feeding hundreds of thousands of people every month across 95% of the country as of Yesterday, we crossed the 300 employee mark, which is pretty amazing. We also really are trying to set a new standard for culture and how we treat our people. So we've got 80 creative types on West 19th Street who are, sometimes barefoot, sometimes drinking beer at 3 p.m. They've got long, silly-looking hair like me. But then we have 220 folks across 4 fulfillment centers in the Bay Area, Chicago, the Bronx, and Miami, who many of them don't even have a high school education. Many don't speak English. So we're trying to give them a path to pursue that Brooklyn American dream as well. They have full-time wages, benefits, and we're in the process of rolling out equity in the business to all of those employees as well. So while companies like Uber and Instacart, I believe, are in many ways gutting the fundamentals of the American economy by making people live on a 1099 contractor-based lifestyle, we're giving people security, we're giving them a path forward. We've got employees that have been with us since day one. Day one, there's my wife, Nimi, in our kitchen on West 14th Street. That's where it started, June 7th, 2012. My partner, Josh, and I, we met in business school. He's the tech guy. I'm kind of the say weird stuff and make things happen guy. This was our first website. We bought it for $9.99 on GoDaddy. Dineinfresh.com. You can see that little Corbis image right there. We just blatantly took that and threw it up, and that was our first website. So we had a website, we needed a fridge, we needed some place where you could pack stuff, because Nimi would come home at the end of work and would find me hacking salmon and packing basil on our kitchen table. I was basically like, So I basically went around all the boroughs, minus Staten Island, and looked for a fridge that we could use. This was in where was this? This was deep Queens. And just, this woman's face basically encapsulates why this was a bad idea. So we also needed money to get this thing off the ground. To your point, Eric, these things are not cheap and they're not easy. Knocked on about 150 doors, got 149 no's. My dad gave me enough money to pay rent for a few months, but that's not enough to start a business. Out at one of those examples, we went and saw the, somehow, I don't remember how, we got connected to the guy who started the Chipwich. You guys know what the Chipwich is? Ice cream sandwich, right? So I go and meet this guy at his $25 million Park Avenue apartment. And he's $1 million years old, and he's in a black turtleneck covered in dandruff. And I'm pitching him on the business, and he just interrupts and you know how many Chipwiches I sold? I'm like, no. He goes, 1 billion. No, wow, that's great, sir. He goes, are you gonna sell 1 billion of these meal kit thingies? I said yes. He said no. And I was on to the next investor. So, 149 of those conversations, just rejection after rejection after rejection. To make a long story short, eventually met these former Israeli special forces guys that had started and sold 2 businesses for over $100 million in Silicon Valley. And talked to him on the phone. He said, Nick, I've been thinking about the same idea. You should come out and come to my kid's birthday party. So we went out to the birthday party. We jumped on the bouncy castle. We're give us money, And they gave us enough money to get off the ground. So we got the money. Now I had to go build a fridge. So this is my man, Pedro. I spent 2 weeks in the old Guinness bottling factory in LIC, Long Island City, building a fridge with Pedro. That's what it looked like when we started. It used to be a storage room for vodka. It was real grim. That's me and Josh. Josh is a Georgia Tech engineer, and he thought we could get these big industrial air conditioning units, attach these aftermarket adapters to them to get them down to below 40 degrees and cool this room. Well, we started spending the investors' money and spent 2 weeks doing this and turned the system on. It wouldn't get below 60 degrees. And this is the middle of summer in New York City. So crap. Basically just had to completely walk away from it. But this is Rupa. she joined us on day 1, and she now leads one of our teams in the Bronx. So she's our longest employee. You can see the nice dine-in fresh boxes. So this is our second spot, which is arguably even more grim. This is Keith, who came and joined us when we were just getting started to manage our team. This is in Greenpoint. This is right up the road from where you were, Eric. You can see that beautiful Manhattan skyline. We didn't have a fridge, so we got this giant cargo container, thank you, giant refrigerated cargo container that I ran off this diesel generator. So I had to bike out from West 14th Street over the Williamsburg Bridge every like 8 hours, keep this thing filled with diesel fuel. And for like 5 months of my life, I'd wake up every night with like images of like a diesel thing exploding and kale like flying all over the Manhattan skyline. Freaking terrible. So October 29th, 2012, we go through, we meet this dude from Bushwick, we called Hipster Chris. He had like cut off jean shorts and like big glasses and a fixed speed bike. And he helped us redesign the site. We found Plated as a domain. A longer story there, but this was the new experience, ready to launch. And October 29th, 2012, the day Hurricane Sandy hits New York. So not only the worst day of internet traffic in the history of the Northeast, history of the New York internet, but as you saw, our fulfillment center in quotes, was right on the river. So this whole thing floods. The cargo container gets lifted up and like almost dragged out to sea. It was some guy like weathered the storm in a truck and told us that like this cargo container was just like sloshing around. It's a 10,000-pound cargo container. And the only reason why it held on was because that genset has this little like cord here and it got like tangled on something. So we almost went out of business before we even went into business. I'm gonna zip through here a little bit, but got a little bit of coverage. This moved us into January, where orders started coming in, just hustling for customers. We moved into our friend's Indian e-commerce like jewelry store, and like had a little back room there that Josh was trying on some clothes. We then got into the Techstars Accelerator program, some nuts, very helpful nuts. This is Eugene. He now runs all creative for Oculus Rift. So, the virtual reality set that got bought for $1 bajillion. Things started working. We're in a partner's facility, sending out hundreds of orders a week in Brooklyn, in downtown Brooklyn. We raised $3 million coming out of Techstars. We had this army of interns that, this is I think Bowery Ballroom, I forget exactly, but we rented this refrigerated truck and we're just giving out meals on the street. Moved offices again. We've moved offices 12 times in 2.5 years, and we've done 14 facilities moves as well. So we've done 26 real estate transactions in 2.5 years, which is, I don't recommend it. This is another cool office, the old Jim Henson Muppet Studio, just a couple blocks up the street here. Awesome kitchen, great culture, but we got kicked out of there. Raised more money to keep the business alive, just hustling, elbow grease, and gumption. Then we went on Shark Tank, which was awesome, totally epic experience. And the month following that, we did more revenue than the entire previous 18 months of the business combined. So off the back of that, we were able to raise our Series A this past July. The prior to that, it was really just duct tape, Band-Aids, and grit, keeping it all together. Post this, we've been able to hire CTO, CFO, Chief Product Officer, COO. So we've got like a real operation running. We've got world-class food facilities in Union City, which is in the Bay Area, in Chicago. We're moving to a 90,000 square foot facility in Hunts Point, Miami as well, moving to Texas in a couple months. So things are working. And I thought it's just illustrative to share the story with you guys. Like, if you read about us now, it's like, oh, great New York City startup food success story. But dude, this shit was hard. So happy to be here. Thank you.